start with business strategy and then design the AI strategy to fulfill those specific business strategies. And a token of how successful we've been with that cultural transition is that if there's something wrong with data, there's data's a bit dirty or port didn't materialize for some reason, people visibly upset about it. And one hand it creates a bit of stress. You need to go and fix things, and that's the rough and tumble of working in data. Be very, very clear what you're trying to achieve. Don't worry about AI per se. Worry about how AI technologies can help you. So, for example, think about voice interfaces. So don't think about it in terms of AI. Think about, okay, what is a voice interface? What does it do for me? In fact, one of the things I tell everybody is when they say, "Can you help me with some AI on this?" I tell them, "Can you repeat that, but don't use the word AI." At the base, you've got our data team. And that's the foundation which everything rests. And they're the unsung heroes because they're the ones making sure that the data is flowing so we can all use it. And they're building, they manage the legacy systems, they manage the data abstraction layers, which are that's the critical bit is being able to abstract away your legacy systems so you have nice, clean, curated data to build your AI program on. And once that's built, they kind of get forgotten a bit. So I always go out of my way to remind people that they're Atlas, they're holding the planet up.
Welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Ashley Braganza, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Eric Tyree to this episode. Eric is from Virgin Media O2. Eric, before we get started, could I ask you to introduce yourself and say a little bit about VMO2, which I'm sure many people are aware of anyway, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Eric Tyree. I'm the head of data and AI at VMO2. Virgin Media O2 is one of the largest telcos in the United Kingdom, providing both broadband and mobile services to our customers.
Eric, thank you for that introduction. Let's start by maybe explaining how is VMO2 approaching AI adoption?
Sure. I think to understand how we're approaching it, you need to understand just a little bit about European telco markets at the moment, because it all comes and flows from what's happening in the business environment. So the telecommunications industry right now is commoditized. There's no new connectivity technology, broadband or mobile coming for years and years and years. What's more is there's probably more bandwidth there's definitely more bandwidth than can actually be consumed. So you have to imagine what that does to competitiveness and to prices is that the market becomes more competitive. Services are harder to differentiate, and so customers are more demanding and they're more likely to churn. So we start with that problem, and I think the key to the VMO2 AI program is it's very strategically driven. So we start with the corporate strategy. So our corporate strategy is all around how do we respond to that, and that really boils down to is how do we make the company more efficient because we're under significant price pressure, so we have to do more with less. But also how do we differentiate ourselves in the market? So if you understand that, then you can understand our approach to AI, which is to start with business strategy and then design the AI strategy to fulfill those specific business strategies. And we do that at the corporate level, and we go through each division and subdivision and try to understand, okay, what are you trying to achieve in this business context over the next few years? And then we start designing how we could use AI to help them. The other really important thing about the program here is we view AI not as technology, but as transformation. So we start with, if we're going to provide, or we can come up with AI-based solutions, say, to improve customer service or to put new voice channels in front of our customers, how does that change the way we operate? How does that change the way we run our processes? How does it change the way we view the customer and the kind of skills that we have in the company? So anytime we engage in an AI program, it's really a transformation program with some AI and other technologies within it. And I think that's why we've been able to be successful, is we're not going the route of, hey, here's some AI technology, let's go test it out and see what it can do. We're going the other way around. We're saying, what does it need to do? And then finding the right technologies, AI or otherwise, that achieves what we want to achieve. And that's the real core of it. Beyond that, our view is, if it's something that changes all the time, for example, models for fraud, models for customer offer that are constantly changing with the pressures from the market or pressures on the business, that kind of AI competency we keep in-house because you want the modeling teams and the technology teams close to the business. But things that are slower burn or things where there's very mature technologies in the market, of course, we go out and buy it. So our view is to have a core of high performance AI people within the company, but lean on our partners quite heavily to deliver the value we need.
That's really interesting, and around being driven from the top with a very clear aim in terms of the corporate strategy. What are some of the key flagship initiatives that are driving the organization today?
I mean, I think you can drive them, or I guess divide them into two broad categories. So personalization is super high on our agenda. And what we're doing there is we're saying, look, if we're in a commoditized industry and we want to differentiate ourselves and we want to be a premium brand in that industry, then we have to find ways to delight our customers and give them a high degree of personalized service, because we're competing against vendors who are going for price. So if we're going to justify being a premium brand, we have to give our customers something more. So personalized service, personalized offers, and all the AI you need around that is very high on our agenda. It's very mature in the company. And again, kind of goes back to what I was saying before. To achieve that, we had to go through a transformation program to do it. But that's very much a centerpiece. Another part is voice interfaces. So I've been promised for 15 years that voice interfaces are coming, and I was starting to think it's a bit like fusion. It was always a few years away, and delighted to find about a year ago that it actually arrived. And the quality at which people can interact with you as a business through automated voice, so AI voice bots, is extraordinary. And it's definitely on a par, in some cases better than what you could get, say, through a call center. So we're a major leg of our program now is how do we do that, and building those interfaces. And our vision of it, it's not just about having sort of some toy avatars on a web page. We genuinely believe that this is how customers are going to want to engage. And I would strongly urge people to use some of them out there. I mean, Meta have got some very good voice interfaces that we're using. And what you'll find is that you can surf the internet verbally. You don't need to go through screens. And so providing that kind of fluidity where our customers can talk to us through the app while simultaneously using the app is something we see is really, really important to us. And to give you an example, what I mean by that is a customer could go onto our app because they want to upgrade their phone. So they're on their app talking to an automated voice agent who's explaining to them the different packages and the different phones. The customer may decide, actually, I'd like to hold some of these phones. So they walk into one of our shops, switch the app back on. The voice agent picks up exactly where it left off before. And now you're going into a three-way conversation between the voice agent, which is an AI bot, so the customer, and the shop assistant. And they're all discussing what's the right phone for this customer and what's the right package that we can craft for that particular individual. So it goes back to personalized service. Other areas that are very important to us, obviously fraud. I mean, the telco industry is as a whole is continuously under attack, just like banks. So we have a lot of AI that goes into that. I would say those are the sort of main broad areas. Obviously, automation is very important to us. We see a lot of opportunities to create enhanced productivity and efficiencies in the business. We're also very keen, I guess, what I would call consumer grade AI. So things like, ChatGPT and Copilots and Claude, all these things that we can use as workers within the office. Whether you're a software developer, you're producing documentation, you're producing presentations. All of these tools for us are actually quite important to get to grow our productivity. And our view on it is we want the productivity. For example, you can get hundreds of % of productivity out of a comms team now by giving them better access to documentation production tools. And you just enjoy the productivity. None of the team winds up with an AI job title. They don't need it. They're just using modern AI tools. So that kind of transformation down in the ground around the tooling that people in the company use is also a big part of it.
And that's really interesting, because the number of organizations, and you can almost see it even at kind of government policy level, the drive to improve productivity, not just at organizational levels, but also looking at improving the UK's productivity, because the UK is lagging behind in terms of productivity relative to the G7 and other countries. I guess that really depends on being able to integrate AI into the work that people do, into the processes that people are working in. How have you all gone about doing that?
Yeah, so adoption is the key here, and I think what a lot of people are finding, and us included, is if you just give new AI tools to people across the business, some of them will pick it up. A lot of them will say that's very interesting and go back to the normal way of working. And this is a very natural sort of human behavior and reaction. I think it's something that you need to sort of accept. So if you're going to try and increase productivity through tooling like that, you have to introduce it very formally. So we have sort of a two-pronged approach. One is just general demand of the business for AI training. So we're training people on what is AI, how can it help you, basic prompt engineering skills, but also teaching people how AI tools can be biased. And rather than saying, oh, it's biased, be careful, we actually train them on the biases and how to manage them, how to detect them, and how to deal with it. So in other words, rather than saying, watch out, we're saying, look, accept it. It's a part of modern AI. It probably won't go away for a long time. So actively manage for it, and we give people the tools they need to be able to do it. The other approach we take, which is much more about transformation, is we identify teams or roles where AI tooling generally transforms the way they work. So we don't just train them on the tools. We go in and do training around, well, this is how you should use it within your role. This is how it's going to change the way you work. And then do a transformation exercise, which is basically you're now going to be working this way. And it gets deeper into just training people. So I'll go back to comms teams. So we're training them on using AI to produce documents faster, obviously, because that's what comms teams do, is they produce communications. However, what a lot of people have found is that if you're not very good at producing communications, ChatGPT and other tools are not going to produce good communications for you, because you have to prompt them, you have to tell them what it is you want to communicate. So one of the things we do is we say, we train everyone on using these tools to produce communications. We also say, and tell them, look, you need to come up with guidelines that identify what degree of skill in producing communications someone has to have before they can use the tool. So we're going deeper into trying to not just roll out productivity. It's actually identify what are the tools really capable of now, how does it relate to that particular role, and who should be using it in what context within that particular role, particular function. So to get the adoption, we're going deep into how these tools change the way people work, and then saying that, look, we're not just showing you a tool, we are changing the way you work to get that productivity and enhanced performance that we want to achieve. So you have to do it both ways. You have to do your sort of general, peanut butter training for everybody, which is massive demand for. I mean, people really do want it. But to get the real productivity gains, you also have to do a parallel campaign where you're targeting groups and roles that you think can benefit the most.
And so is that work going on at the level of the roles that people perform in the organization? That seems like a very huge undertaking.
It is, and we're not going to do it overnight. It's our take on it. It's a slow burn, and but we're initially focusing on things like corporate affairs, where you have in communications, where you have people who are using a lot of tools like PowerPoint production tools or presentation tools, document creation tools, research. So, for example, you're putting out communications, and you want to understand, well, what's the impact of it? How are people reacting to it? Those are 3 areas where current tooling that you can buy relatively inexpensively can have a significant impact. So, it's, in the way we take it, I'd rather go slow on that approach, develop our sort of cookie cutter methodologies around it, and then we'll just start working around the business. But I'd rather do it that way, because we have found that if you just throw the tools on people's desks with a bit of training, you only get a minority of people really using it. Because as humans, we don't want to change the way. If we've got a way of working that works for us, your natural inclination is not to change it. So you wind up just getting the early adopters. And what we're trying to do is go through the whole adoption curve in one shot. But that means going a bit slow, identifying groups, catering your training and your thinking and the transformation, I guess, requirements specific to that group. But in the long run, this will pay off. And so I think it's the right way to do it.
Thank you for that, because you're right. It is about getting under the skin of the actual activities, what people do when they come into work. What impact is AI having on the culture of the organization, Eric?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because what we've done is we're I don't know, 3/4 of the way through a data democracy program that we've been doing for a number of years now. So we view data democracy as sort of fundamental to the business. We want the business to be data-driven and to make data-based decisions. And as part of that, we want to standardize tooling. We want to standardize how people use data, standardize data itself. And a big part of that is culture. So we recognize that going from where we were a few years ago to where we are now has been a cultural change. And there's a group within our data democracy function that worries about that and actively promotes data-driven culture, and what that means, and how we should be using data, how do we talk about it, how to use a decision, so on and so forth. So to understand where data culture has got to in this company, I attend a meeting sort of a senior management meeting in the morning on Mondays. And it's kind of like a stand-up. You talk about, okay, what are you working on? Where are we against numbers? Where are we going to major operational programs and all that kind of thing. And what a lot of people are doing is they're talking about information they're reading off reports. Data-driven decision-making is permeated the culture here. And a token of how successful we've been with that cultural transition is that if there's something wrong with data, there's data's a bit dirty, or report didn't materialize for some reason, people visibly upset about it. And one hand, it creates a bit of stress. You need to go and fix things, and that's the rough and tumble of working in data. But also makes you realize, this is how successful we've been in getting it out, and in part because we view it as a cultural thing. For AI, we're in the process of designing that. So what we don't want to happen is throw a bunch of AI tools out there, throw out a bunch of AI programs, and then sort of just let it develop organically. What we learned from our data democracy program is you need to actively participate and create that AI culture. So we're in the process of working through that, and we've handed the AI cultural piece to the data democracy program, because they've got the people and the tools and the experience to help drive our AI culture. our thinking on it is that we really want to create a mentality of continuous improvement. And when you think about sort of desktop tools, that's really what that's all about. There's a deeper one that we're also working on that's will be a more fundamental change, which is as we get into more and more agentic-based automation technologies, which we have a very active program on, our thinking is we're changing the skill sets of the company itself. And I kind of, I'm going to date myself here, but my first job in graduate school was teaching the paperless office, which was really about rolling out Windows-based software into offices. And that was a major cultural change, but also it was a new way of working and a massive enhancement of productivity. So we're viewing AI in the same way as, we're going to change the way people operate, but the skills change. So for example, once agentic really starts taking off in day-to-day automation, everybody in the office suddenly has to become a little bit of a process engineer, right? You need to understand process, you need to understand how these agents work, but also your ability to change process or to make exceptions to process and ask agents to do things on a day-to-day basis changes, but you have to be aware of how that fits into process and be able to change process almost continuously. And we see that as being the big change coming down the road. So we're already thinking about, okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to roll that out? And one of the areas we decided to focus on first with agentic AI is our HR department. And the reason being is they realized that this is actually a big change in terms of how the company runs. It'll be a big change in skills, big change in how people operate. And they wanted to do it themselves first so they fully understand it, because they're the ones that are going to be rolling it out. And so that's another big recommendation I'll give to people. If you're looking at how am I going to use agentic automation in the future, you probably want to start with people who will be the ones who will be thinking about and responsible for the cultural and operational changes it will entail. So the culture bit we take very, very seriously. We've got a pretty good data democracy program with a significant cultural component, and we're going to use that to promote AI culture where we're clear what we want to do, and where we're still exploring, because the technology is moving faster than we can think about it. We're working with our HR department to look at, okay, let's get agentic automation working for them first, see what the impacts are in terms of how it changes skills, changes the way people work with each other and with software. And then we've got a firm basis in which to roll that out across the business.
That issue about culture is one that every organization, every senior management board I've worked with says is absolutely critical, but very few have found a way of actually dealing with that in a comprehensive way. And I think what I'm gathering is this both kind of top down but also bottom up approach that you seem to be putting in place at VMO too. This issue about it's about transformation is clearly close to my heart, being a professor of organizational transformation. But I guess the question is around which comes first. Does the transformation come first or the technology come first? Is there an approach here around which one you think needs to almost lead, and is there a lead and lag there between the two?
No, they're the same thing. So the way we've structured ourselves is, as an AI team, is effectively three groups. At the base, you've got our data team, and that's the foundation which everything rests. And they're the unsung heroes because they're the ones making sure that the data is flowing so we can all use it. And they're building, they manage the legacy systems, they manage the data abstraction layers, which are that's the critical bit, is being able to abstract away your legacy systems so you have nice, clean, curated data to build your AI program on. And once that's built, they kind of get forgotten a bit. So I always go out of my way to remind people that they're Atlas, they're holding the planet up as far as you're concerned. Then you got the AI team itself, which is everything from machine learning engineers to specialists, software engineers, you name it. But then we've got a group we call data product managers. It's not really the right term for them. They are the ones that we've hired are a bunch of ex-consultants from places like McKinsey, BCG, so on and so forth, who have a very good understanding of not just business operations, but how you execute change within an organization. And then what we do here is their job is to say, okay, we're going to roll out personalization, say, and this is what we did 2 years ago when we did it. Their job is, okay, how do you prove to the business that this is going to produce incremental value for us and for our customers? So they'll run the initial quick pilots to sort of demonstrate that. Then what they do is they sit down and embed themselves into the commercial organization itself. So they're now at the table with commercial, and their job is to understand commercial in the way commercial thinks about it. They have to be in there as peers. They're working with the AI team to work out, okay, what exactly is the opportunity here? So they'll work with the AI team to say, okay, what can personalization really do? But then they work with the business to understand what are the real value pools that we're attacking here, and how much of those value pools can we actually are addressable, and how much of that can we really get? Then they start working with the business. Okay, if you're going to move from national pricing to personalized offers, how do you, and personal is obviously like, what sort of packages should we give people, within a a given pricing context. Um, how does that change the way you operate? Do you need to change the way you organize? And they work with the senior management in the division, including the chief commercial officer, to start mapping that out. So the two work together. And then what we do is when we kick off the plan, is it's got a transformation component and it has the actual technology component, and they run together as one program. So the two are intertwined. We don't see them as separate. You can't have one without the other. I could roll the AI out, but there's no transformation. No one's going to use it. If I roll the transformation out, the AI isn't ready yet. It will fail. So you can't separate them. And I think this is the biggest mistake that people make rolling out AI, and previously in rolling out big data as well. You saw the same pattern, is you get technologists rolling it out and the business kind of going, I don't know what to do with this. Or the business saying, hey, this is fantastic, but they're not in a position or not planned out the transformation of their processes or organization to be able to exploit it. So we've taken that to the heart of the program. In fact, we report to our executive committee twice a month, and they only want three things from us. They want to know where we are against our numbers, which is fair enough. Then they want to know where are we against our transformation plan. So you've got the relevant business person in there, or senior operations person in there with us, shoulder to shoulder, then explaining, okay, here's where we are on the transformation side, and then where are the blockers? Because as everyone knows, transformation is really hard, and it gets blocked all the time. And you have to sort of, our attitude is that's normal. That's human behavior. Don't worry about it. We'll address one blocker at a time. Understand why people are blocking. If it's a good reason, we'll work with it. If it's just pure resistance, then we'll work with that as well. But the point I'm making here is that when we're reporting, we're not actually talking about the technology anymore. We're talking about, is it hitting the numbers it needs to hit? It's business value. Are we hitting the value we said we would hit? Where are we on the transformation side? Because we all know that if we don't do the transformation, we're not getting the value. And then we focus on what's stopping us or what's slowing us down. And the role of that our executive committee have taken is they focus on those problems. So it's funny because a lot of people, when you're dealing with sort of C-suite management, they don't want to talk about problems. I've turned it on the head. I only talk about problems. In fact, we take the meetings off like, here's my demands. This is what I need from you, and here's why. And we focus on that. And that's, I think, a really important part. There's we've created an environment where we're asking the senior management of the business to be problem solvers in the AI program. We're not reporting to them. We're asking them to be active participants in it, and that makes all the difference. And that's what you get when you tie your AI program to the corporate strategy itself, because they're already aligned. They already know why we're doing it. They know what it means to them. They know what it means to the business. So we're not in it's a much more collaborative style, and that's also a really important thing to make about what that data product team do. When we work in commercial, we work under commercials terms. They use commercials processes, commercials terminology, commercials program management methodologies. When we're working in the call center, and we're working in operations, we use the call center terminology, call center operational technique, call center program management. We work on their terms. So the teams, what we do when we embed them in, is they come in and become whoever it is that they're serving. And again, it's a soft thing, but it makes a big difference because you get the adoption, you get the acceptance, and it's part of that transformational wrapper that all this is done in. What I manage then is how do I deal with that down into the bowels of the technology teams, so that they are working in a standard, consistent way, even though the teams that are actually in the businesses are working in ways that are native to the divisions they're actually working with.
That's really fascinating in terms of getting that dynamic functioning in that way. You've started to address this, but I'd like to pull out what are some of the key lessons that you've learned on the journey so far.
I think the biggest is the importance of focusing on challenge. And being upfront about it. Something that I learned throughout my career is the biggest mistake people can make on large projects is to not surface problems till the very end. So turning up, you're working on some, I don't know, a year-long project, and you turn up month 11 and say, actually, we're stuck, we can't do it. What I found just over time and just, working on big technology projects and complicated things and big businesses is you build trust by surfacing problems early, because what people see is that you're identifying problems and you're solving them. And that reassures people, because everyone knows there's problems. I don't know why people want to hide them. Everyone knows there's always going to be problems. So you manage to the problems, and you surface the problems, you surface them as risks, and you surface your mitigations. And over time, people see you solving these things. So they learn to trust that you can deal with the rough and tumble. However, you hit a problem that you can't solve, and you flagged it early. So if I'm telling somebody that I'm delivering to, hey, we've got a major technical challenge, we've got a transformation challenge, and we're flagging it, we're talking about it, and we're being very open about it. And after 3 months, it's genuinely threatening, the delivery date of the project. They're already with us. They're already helping us. They're psychologically prepared. they trust us because we've been surfacing the issue all along and explaining to them what we're doing and why we're struggling with it and why mitigations aren't helping. And you wind up with a much more collaborative partner there who's now working with you to solve the problem from a business point of view, even if reality may well be a technical problem. So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned in my career, and we've definitely put it into the program. It's also why we embed those product teams into the divisions, is also that they can surface these issues, work collaboratively with the business. That, let's say we hit a technical issue that means we can't do something we want them to do. Are there alternative technology we can use, but also can we change the business solution, right? That we can still get the value, but doing it in a different way, or maybe going after something else. And that's also something I learned growing up in startups, is the art of the pivot. And when you're doing new technologies, and what AI is you're going to pivot, I guarantee it. And but that's where you're going to find the value. Nothing runs to plan, and that could well be that the business goals themselves may need adjustment, but you found a better way to use that technology that delivers some value to the business. So it's that thing. It's the collaborativeness, and it's the we don't do AI to people. We solve their business problems, and we focus on the business problems, and we pull the AI. We bring the AI to them, in effect, but through solving their business problems and tying it to wherever it is that's keeping them awake at night.
If I were to lift and shift you out of VMO2 to another organization that was just getting started on the AI journey, what advice would you give them?
What I would say is focus on, or be clear what it is you're trying to achieve over whatever time frame you're planning. So we tend to work in 3 to 5 year cycles on the consumer side of the telco world. So be very, very clear what you're trying to achieve. Don't worry about AI per se. Worry about how AI technologies can help you. So, for example, think about voice interfaces. So don't think about it in terms of AI. Think about, okay, what is a voice interface? What does it do for me? In fact, one of the things I tell everybody is when they say, "Can you help me with some AI on this?" I tell them, "Can you repeat that, but don't use the word AI. Talk about it in terms of what's the outcome you want. What is the thing that you want to happen?" So, and again, it's keeping people focused on outcomes and focusing on the change they actually want, not on the black box that a lot of people that's AI so much right now. So the advice is very much pull your technology teams close to you, let them help you solve your problems, but always talk about your solutions in business terms. Don't talk about how AI can help you. Talk about the things you actually want to achieve. Let the AI teams tell you what's possible and what's not, but try and keep AI out of the conversation, even if you're neck deep in it. And that way, you're much more likely to get the success because you're articulating what you want in the terms that you want. So, for example, a lot of people are worrying about AI SEO. So, in other words, you got the AI overlays. How are we going to get, what's going to happen with that? Is it going to become like the results that you get out of Google and everyone's going to bid for it, all that kind of thing? What I keep saying to people is don't use the word AI when you talk about it. What are you really worrying about? Because I'm worried about how people are going to discover us. Like when people do searches with Google now, it's effectively the Gemini output. It's not looking at the search results. So, okay, well, let's talk about discovery. Let's talk about what it is you want people to see, hear, read, and talk about it in those terms. Don't talk about, hey, I got to get AI working for me in internet search. You're not articulating it in a way that you can be successful. So it's that stay focused on, stick to your knitting in terms of the business outcomes you want, but bring the AI teams close to you. Let them solve your business problems. Let them worry about the tech, but bring them close to you so they're solving these problems you have.
Eric, thank you so much for an absolutely incredible journey through what you and colleagues in VMO2 are doing in this AI space. I have to say, it's hugely refreshing to hear, someone coming to AI from a transformation perspective and with a very strong focus on what does this mean for people? What does this mean for people in the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day things that they do when they come into work? How do we ensure that this is meaningful to people? I think you're absolutely right. I think people very often, when they are looking to implement AI technologies, they get so caught up with the technology, they forget that actually there's an organization, there's a business here that's trying to achieve something. There are lots of people who are coming in to put their entire energy into helping the business achieve something. And AI should be enabling them, and not just something that's dumped on them. And your focus on culture, I haven't heard that approach being taken and articulated so clearly. But lots of people talk about culture. Very few actually do something about it. And what came through very clearly is that you and colleagues in VMO2 are definitely looking at how you bring a cultural change, which is far more lasting. Eric, thank you so much for joining me on the AI Adoption Podcast. And I'd like to thank my listeners who've also joined us to listen to this podcast.
Thank you. My pleasure.